Welcome to being at home with George during COVID. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that you folks can be here with me. And I'd like to talk a little bit about, as you know, the frame of this process has to do with creating the possibility of being able to embrace the hurt, the pain, the frustration, the fatigue, and at the same time generating hope, seeing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that we can be grateful for what we have, and at the same time we can look for things to be better in the days ahead. The best of life is yet to come, even though it's challenging just to get through this moment, this time. And so I'd like to talk about this time right now because we have the coronavirus, raging. Tons of people, I believe 2,000 people died yesterday, but we're close to 12 million people being infected. And we're coming up on Thanksgiving. And it's interesting being in this time of uncertainty. And then when you talk about the election, and even though the election is over, it's not really over because there's folks that are meddling or trying to do things that are out of integrity, that's getting away from the lawfulness of stuff. So when we think about where we are, just reflecting on where we are and what can we do? How can we embrace all of that, and at the same time generate hope, and actually not just have hope, but act out of this idea of optimism and hope, and wanting to be for life versus against life, wanting to alleviate suffering, wanting to get beyond the illusion of separateness. And so I've been reflecting because I'm in the process of writing a book on leadership, and so I was thinking about integrity. And integrity is not just a moral thing. It has a lot to do with having thought and action being in unity, to actually say what we mean and do what we say. But it's not a moral thing, even though it is a moral thing. It has more about what works, what generates power. And there's something about having our word, honoring our word, or being impeccable in our word, so that what we say is what we mean, and when we make a promise, we keep it. And the interesting thing about integrity is when we are out of integrity, when I'm out of integrity, I have the option of saying, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen. I can clean it up and then get back on the horse, get back into integrity. And right now, when we think about Thanksgiving and being with family members and the raging pandemic, we have to really get clear about how things work, and they're not personal. So when I think about the election, or think about here's the rules are there's a winner and a loser. So when you lose, you can't bend the rules and just try to make stuff up. Just like you can't act like there's not a pandemic and not wear a mask or social distance, or wash your hands, because we're tired. We've been in this for over 8 months and we're tired of it. We want to get back to work. We want to get back to school. We want to get back to socializing, but we're not there yet. And the interesting thing is we are really close. Now we had two pharmaceuticals come up with potential vaccines, but it's going to be a while before all of us get vaccinated. And so I feel like when we're this close, there's more pressure, there's more anxiety, there's more restlessness. And so I'm reminded of the movie Jaws, when Quint was sharing the story of being on the USS Annapolis that was carrying the atomic bomb, and it got sunk, and there were hundreds of sailors in the water. And he said the most perilous time was just before they got rescued, just before they got into the boat. And so that's an analogy for us. We're really close to getting a handle on this pandemic, even though it's totally out of control. But it's in our control to get more control. But we need everybody to step up and have integrity and the sense of being for life and being for ourselves. Because now we know that if you wear a mask, it does two things. It prevents you from spreading the virus if you have it, and it prevents us from getting it if we're in the neighborhood of it. So we need to social distance. We need to wear a mask. And to me, the analogy is you have people who want to be free. Yeah, we have freedom. We have freedom to smoke. We have freedom not to wear a mask, but we have to take responsibility for the consequences of that. And so it's amazing that you be standing next to somebody and they are smoking and they say, I have the right to smoke. And I said, yeah, but we're sharing space and we know the secondhand smoke causes cancer even more for the person getting the secondhand smoke than the person inhaling the smoke. And so we have to be responsible. We have to get beyond the illusion of separateness and realize we don't live in a vacuum. And even though we have freedom, we also have freedom to choose for the greater good. And so that means that even though I have this intention and this desire to exercise freedom, you can exercise freedom by choosing to do the right thing versus not doing the right thing. So when we interpret it as something being imposed on us, that's a problem. That's an interpretation. That's not what's really happening. Because if I really wanted to smoke and didn't want to cause anybody harm, I would go out away from everybody and smoke. If I want to be somewhere where I don't social distance or I don't wear a mask, then I need to be somewhere away from other people where I don't have to wear a mask and I can be by myself. Or if you're operating like the NBA and you have a bubble and you know everybody's been in that bubble and been tested, getting tested daily, and they don't have the virus, then you may be able to interact with the person, but you have to be in a bubble and it has to be, and even then you're getting tested. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, good friends of mine, that says there's more detections because there's more testing. Well, we just saw the NBA and the WNBA and the NHL go through a process. The NBA, they were in a bubble, the winners for 95 days, not one positive test, but they were getting tested regularly. They were social distancing, um, washing hands, using sanitizer. It works, but we have to be willing to do it just for a little, at least till we get to a point. So not to quit now. So this idea of we're closer to Thanksgiving. This is the time that we're with family and loved ones, and we may have to put that off to save ourselves, to save family, to save our communities, because we have to look at the big picture. Yeah, I could smoke, but the secondhand smoke is causing harm. Can I take responsibility for that? And am I really for non-harming folks? And so integrity is power. And so that means integrity is really about workability. It's really about being for life, being harmonious, creating a space where we can be ourselves, where I can just be honest. I can have integrity. I can just be real. But being real doesn't mean I can be real and smoke and tell you that I don't care about you. I can do things. It has more to do with when you do something or when you lose a race, you lost. You can't try to change the rules because that puts us out of integrity. That becomes force versus power. And when you have force, you have to have counterforce. But power just flows. It's like a river. It just flows because it's the way things are. There's a lawfulness to this universe. You can say that gravity doesn't exist, but if you jump up, you will come down. So we have to understand that, yeah, we can choose not to follow the rules and not to play fair, but there's a consequence to that. And then you get to the point where it creates more hostility, more divisiveness, and more it destables everything, and it creates more chaos. And so people have to be willing, and we need to support each other and encourage people to do the right thing. And so I'm thinking about this. It's only what I hear in the news, Michigan, where you had a couple of Republican folks that didn't want to certify the election, where Biden won by hundreds of thousands of tons of votes, and they're going to and it's interesting. It was in Wayne County where most of the people of color live and whatnot, and Biden was winning 89%. It's like, so we have to somebody to go against the rules, go against integrity, or get out of integrity, just so because they have an ideology, and they're like, this person has to be, he can't lose unless it's rigged, instead of just know the truth, embrace the truth, and then deal with that. Okay, look at why I lost, and then you can, you can reset again. We can do whatever we need to do. And it's the same thing. Congress went home, and all these people are suffering, and we have a vaccine. But if we don't do things right, if we don't let President-elect have access to the scientists and the resources that he'll need, so that when January 20th comes, we hit the ground running. Now, we have this idea, the Democrats have to work it out. No, we all have to take responsibility for that and encourage people influence people to do the right thing and say that's not okay. And I don't want to hurt his feelings. Well, it's nothing about his feelings. This is about what's right. And so getting back in integrity means we go back to the Constitution and how things work. If you work for the government and you put your party before the Constitution, you're out of integrity. And it's going to be a lack of power. There's going to be some suffering that is a result of that. Now, I'm not Pollyannish. I know that we're not all always in integrity and we don't cut corners and do things. I'm not saying that, but I mean in terms of the suffering we're going through and not being willing to provide the resources that we're going to need for the first responders and for people who are suffering, who are hungry, going to bed hungry, and we go home and we act like it's okay because we don't want to go beyond the budget. Our ideology is getting in the way of our humanity. And the idea right now is we have to do what's right, and we have to get to a point where we get beyond the illusion of separateness and we understand it's about the United States, not the red states or the blue states, and it's about all of us being together. And even though we're close, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of restlessness to want to just go back the way things were without embracing the truth. Know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. It's like, yes, it's dangerous, but we can get through this. And we've been shown in numerous cases, especially with the NBA, that, you know, it's not the amount of testing that causes the positive test results. It's a lack of social distancing, a lack of wearing masks, a lack of washing our hands. And so we need to get out of the ideology and back to humanity and do what's right, get back in integrity. And integrity is another way of saying workability, or things that work, or performance. Performance has everything to do with integrity. You put in the work, you show up, and it shows out. But we have to get to this place where we're willing to do these three simple things, and we're willing to realize if we do smoke, that we have to recognize that the secondhand smoke causes suffering. And just because we deny it or we blame the other person, it doesn't mitigate the fact that we are putting people's lives at risk or putting their health at risk. And we have to really own that. So we have to take personal responsibility, and even people we love or part of our troop or part of our tribe, we have to say, listen, it's over. Let's play by the rules. And if you have confidence in your ability, then there's no need to cheat. There's no need to try to alter things. You have to take responsibility for it and take the consequences. You ran, you lost, it's over. You want to be free, you can be free in ways that don't impact others. The freedom is still there, and you can have the freedom to do the right thing even though you don't feel like it. And so to me, that's discipline, that's being professional, that's being mature. When you do the right thing, even though you don't feel like it, if you do that, then you'll have access to power, and then that's how we get to know who we are, by having the integrity of knowing the truth, and the truth shall make us free. And so let's create the situation, or create the possibility that next week, even though it's Thanksgiving, it's going to be Thanksgiving, that we're prepared to not go home, or to do what we need to do to keep everybody safe, because we want to pay it forward to next Thanksgiving. So we're looking at having next Thanksgiving next year be more, it won't be the same, but we'll be able to do the things we want to do that we can't do now. But work, we have to make the commitment. We have to have the discipline and the commitment to doing what we know to do. And then the next step will be shown to us. And so I'm really excited about having this opportunity to share this with you, because I've been reflecting on this and thinking about this for some time in these calls that we have. It's about how to be during this time of COVID. And once again, it's making the shift from doing to being. So being safe, being loving, being compassionate, being for life and not for the opposite of life, or just doing what you want and not caring what the impact is on others, treating people less than a human being, and then wondering why there's a counter force, because you're forcing things. And whenever there's force, it doesn't work. Power works. And power works from, doing the right thing in the right way for the right reason.